The Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl, and somehow the rest of the league still is not paying attention. That is a mistake, because while every other team in the NFC West spent this offseason scrambling to fix holes, John Schneider sat back, kept his core together, and quietly built a roster that might be even more dangerous than the one that just raised the Lombardi Trophy. At the center of all of it is Sam Darnold, the quarterback that 3 different franchises threw away like he was the problem. He was not the problem. He threw for 4,048 yards last season with a 99.1 passer rating, led Seattle to a 14-3 record, and became a Super Bowl champion in his very first year with this team. 3 teams gave up on him. 1 believed, and now that one has a ring. But the quarterback is only part of the story. Jackson Smith-Njigba just took home NFL Offensive Player of the Year honors and has not even hit his prime yet. Cooper Kupp is still catching everything thrown his way. Rashid Shaheed just got locked back in on a $51 million deal and brings a deep threat plus return game that no defense can ignore. Now flip to the other side of the ball. Devin Witherspoon made the Pro Bowl for the 3rd straight season, and there is not a single cornerback in football who does what he does. Mike McDonald is still calling the defense that held teams quiet all year long. Josh Jobe proved in the Super Bowl that he belongs as a full-time starter. This roster did not get weaker. It got smarter. And here is what makes this offseason genuinely scary for the rest of the league. Seattle is sitting on one of the biggest cap space totals in football. 2 massive contract extensions are on the way. The NFC West rivals are stumbling over themselves trying to keep up, and the draft has not even happened yet. Everything you're about to hear in this video explains why the Seattle Seahawks are not just defending their title. They are building something that could last for years, and it all starts with the moves nobody is talking about. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Seahawks and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 500 likes on this video. Championship teams do not repeat because of their stars. They repeat because of the guys whose names never trend on social media, but whose absence would destroy the entire operation. That is exactly what John Schneider understood this offseason. While fans were refreshing their phones waiting for a blockbuster signing, Schneider was locking down the glue that held the Super Bowl roster together. Cody White is back after a groin injury cut his season short in Week 17. Before that, he was on the field for a career-high 282 snaps, scored a 60-yard touchdown against the Commanders, and played on every single special teams unit Seattle has. He is not a headline. He is a necessity. Then there is Brady Russell, the guy Jay Harbaugh pointed to first when asked who best represents what Seattle wants on special teams. Russell led every player in the entire NFL with 394 special teams snaps last season and paced the Seahawks with 14 special teams tackles. That is not a depth guy. That is a tone setter. Josh Jones also returns as the swing tackle who stepped in at left tackle when Charles Cross went down for the final 3 regular season games and did not miss a beat. Chris Stoll comes back to hold things down at long snapper, and Brandon Pilley re-signed for just $2 million after eating up blocks along the defensive line all year as an unsung rotation piece. None of these names are going to light up a debate show. None of them are going to sell jerseys, but every single one of them played a role in winning a championship. And Schneider made sure none of them walked out the door. That kind of quiet, calculated retention is exactly why Seattle's roster has no panic in it. But the external additions Schneider made, those tell a completely different story. Nobody held a press conference. Nobody posted a cryptic tweet. John Schneider just went shopping in the bargain aisle and came back with players who might end up starting by September. Emmanuel Wilson walks in from Green Bay with 1,083 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns across 3 seasons as a backup. He never got the full opportunity in Green Bay, but the talent was obvious every time he touched the ball. And here's the part that makes it feel like destiny. Wilson grew up in North Carolina, cheering for the Seahawks as a kid. He called signing with Seattle a blessing. You cannot coach that kind of hunger. On the defensive side, Leak Noah Igbenogene brings first-round pedigree to a cornerback room that just lost Rick Woolen. His career has not gone the way people expected when he was drafted, but the physical tools are still there, and if anyone can unlock that potential, it is Mike McDonald. At safety, Rodney Thomas II comes over from Indianapolis to compete for the starting spot next to Julian Love now that Kobe Bryant headed to Chicago. D'Anthony Bell adds another body in the secondary who already spent time in the Seattle system and contributes on special teams right away. This is the pattern that makes Schneider one of the most underrated general managers in football. He does not chase the biggest names in March. He finds players other teams overlooked, brings them into a locker room full of Super Bowl confidence, and lets McDonald's coaching turn potential into production. That exact formula turned Drake Thomas from an undrafted nobody into a starting linebacker with 89 tackles and 3.5 sacks last season. It turned Ty Okada from a scrap heap pickup into a legitimate safety. And now, the question everyone should be asking is whether these new additions were enough to replace the guys who walked away. 5 players from the Super Bowl roster are gone. And yes, it stings. Kenneth Walker III signed with the Kansas City Chiefs on a deal worth up to $45 million. Boy Mafe landed in Cincinnati for up to $60 million. Kobe Bryant got up to $40 million from the Chicago Bears. Rick Woolen took a 1-year deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. And Derek Young followed former offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak to the Las Vegas Raiders. Read those numbers again. Every single one of those contracts would have handcuffed Seattle's ability to make the 2 franchise-defining moves that are coming this summer. John Schneider saw that, and he let them walk, not out of disrespect, out of math. Here's where it gets interesting. Seattle lost 1 starter on offense and 1 starter on defense. That is it. Walker's explosiveness will be missed, but running back is the single most replaceable position in the NFL draft. Young backs come in every year ready to run. Mafe earned every dollar Cincinnati is paying him, but Seattle's defensive line rotation was so deep last season that it was arguably the best position group on the entire championship roster. Woolen split time with Josh Jobe all year, and Jobe just locked down receivers in the Super Bowl with 7 tackles and a tackle for loss. The production gap is not as wide as people want to believe. Every one of those players deserved to get paid. Every one of them bet on themselves and won. But Schneider looked at this roster and made a cold, clear decision. Pay the 2 guys who are the best at their position in the entire league, or spread that money across players who are really good but replaceable. He chose the future. And those 2 extensions he is about to hand out, they could reshape the entire salary cap landscape of the NFL. This is the moment the entire offseason has been building toward. Jackson Smith-Njigba is eligible for his 5th-year team option on May 1st. But everyone inside that building knows a 5th-year option is not enough. JSN wants to be the highest-paid wide receiver in football. He said it himself. Jamar Chase currently holds that title at over $40 million per year with the Bengals, and JSN has every reason to believe he deserves to top that number. He turned 24 this month. Every single season he has been in the league, he has gotten better. He went from a 3rd option to a 2nd option to the undisputed number 1. He became a red zone weapon despite being a smaller receiver. He won Offensive Player of the Year. Schneider's front office could be looking at a deal approaching $200 million in total value. That would be the largest contract in Seattle Seahawks history at any position. Now add Devin Witherspoon to the equation. He is 25 years old and just made the Pro Bowl for a 3rd consecutive season. There's no template for what he does. No other cornerback in the NFL is asked to play inside, play outside, and then line up as a blitzing defender on back-to-back snaps. He did it twice in the Super Bowl. Comparing him to other corners is almost impossible because he breaks every mold. He belongs in the top 5 of cornerback salaries at minimum, and if Christian Gonzalez in New England gets extended first, the ceiling only rises higher for Witherspoon. John Schneider historically gets extensions done in late July, around training camp. Both players know their value. Both players love Seattle. And every cap dollar Schneider saved by letting veterans walk this offseason was always meant for this exact purpose. But while Seattle locks down its future, something else is happening across the division that makes this timing even more perfect. The Los Angeles Rams almost pulled off a move that would have made the entire NFC West a nightmare. They were in serious trade talks with Philadelphia for A.J. Brown, and if that deal had gone through, Matthew Stafford would have had one of the most dangerous receiving groups in football, but it fell apart. According to reports, the Rams got scared off by preliminary medical research on Brown and decided the investment was too much for a player approaching 29 with a history of soft tissue injuries. They backed out completely, and the ripple effect of that decision tells you everything about where Los Angeles actually stands right now. The Rams were so ready to bring in Brown that they were already lining up trade partners for Davante Adams to make room. That plan collapsed, and now Adams stays in Los Angeles on the final year of his deal after the team paid him a $6 million bonus to keep things moving. Behind Adams and Puka, the next highest yardage receiver on last year's roster was Xavier Smith, who managed just 300 yards the entire season. The Rams needed a third wide receiver badly enough to chase a trade for a player with medical red flags. That should tell you how thin they feel. Stafford is still elite, but the clock is ticking on his window, and the weapons around him are not getting younger or deeper. Meanwhile, the San Francisco 49ers are reshuffling pieces trying to stay relevant. And the Arizona Cardinals are still in a full rebuild that has not produced consistent results yet. Seattle sits in the middle of all this with a 28-year-old Super Bowl winning quarterback, a 24-year-old Offensive Player of the Year, and a defense that gave up fewer points than anyone in the league. The division gap is real. But there is one more thing Schneider can do to make it even wider, and it involves what happens in late April. The Seahawks currently hold just 4 picks in the 2026 draft, and that is not a lot to work with. But John Schneider has never needed volume to find impact players. He needs the right ones. The biggest hole on this roster right now is running back. With Kenneth Walker III gone and Emmanuel Wilson serving as a bridge option, this draft is where Seattle finds its next feature back. Jonah Coleman out of Washington already visited the Seahawks facility. He rushed for over 1,000 yards with 15 touchdowns in his final college season and has the burst and contact balance to contribute immediately. Running back is the one position where a young player can walk in and produce from day one, and Seattle knows that. But the pick that has quietly generated the most buzz inside the building is on the defensive side. Jalen Kilgore out of South Carolina has an official top 30 visit scheduled with Seattle. He stands 6'1", weighs 210 pounds, and ran a 4.40 40-yard dash at the combine. He played safety, nickel corner, and even lined up in the box during his college career, racking up 8 interceptions and 178 tackles across 3 seasons in the SEC. That positional versatility is not just a nice bonus. It is the exact blueprint Mike McDonald builds his defense around. Devin Witherspoon plays inside and outside. Josh Jobe plays multiple spots. Nicky Murray lined up at about 8 different positions. Kilgore fits that mold perfectly, and at just 21 years old, his ceiling is enormous. Seattle does not need to swing for the fences in this draft. The foundation is already built. What the Seahawks need are targeted pieces that fill specific roles without overpaying, and Schneider has made a career out of finding exactly that. But the draft is just one more layer on top of something much bigger. And when you step back and look at the full picture of what this offseason has built, the conclusion is hard to argue with. Every offseason, fans panic. They see names leave and assume the sky is falling. But the Seattle Seahawks are not built on names. They are built on a system, a culture, and a general manager who understands something most front offices never figure out. You do not repeat by chasing what you had. You repeat by knowing exactly what you need. John Schneider, watched 5 players walk out the door this offseason and did not flinch. He re-signed the depth that holds the locker room together. He added low-cost players with high upside into a coaching system that develops talent better than almost anyone in the league. And he kept the 5th most cap space in the NFL available because 2 franchise-altering extensions for Jackson Smith-Njigba and Devin Witherspoon are right around the corner. Sam Darnold is still on a deal that pays him just $33.5 million per year, making him one of the most underpaid starting quarterbacks in football after winning a championship. Schneider said publicly that he wants Darnold to be the Seahawks quarterback for a long time. The team's policy of not extending players until their final contract year means that bargain stays intact through this entire season. That is, financial flexibility that no other contender in the NFC has right now. The Rams are aging. The Niners are retooling. The Cardinals are still searching for an identity. Seattle already found theirs and cemented it with a ring. The culture runs all the way through this roster. Cody White, a 4th or 5th receiver on the depth chart, told reporters his only mission this offseason is going back for another Super Bowl. When the bottom of your roster talks like that, you know the standard has been set from top to bottom. The Seattle Seahawks are not hoping to repeat. They expect it. And after everything you have just heard, it is getting really hard to bet against them.